We are taught from a young age that hell is a spiritual place. We are told it is a dimension of suffering, separated from our reality by death, by sin, by the intangible veil of the soul. We are told that you cannot walk to hell, you cannot drive there, and you certainly cannot dig there. But what if we were wrong? What if the ancient maps were not metaphors? What if the underworld is not a metaphysical concept, but a physical location? A geographical coordinate waiting just 12 kilometers beneath the soles of your feet? In 1989, the Soviet Union abruptly halted the drilling of the Kola Superdeep Borehole. It was the deepest man-made hole in history. The official reason was a lack of funding and higher than expected temperatures. But the unofficial story, the legend that circulated in the dark corners of the Kremlin, was that they stopped because of what they heard. They lowered a microphone into the abyss, and instead of the shifting of tectonic plates, they recorded the sounds of human screaming. The Soviets sealed the hole. They welded it shut and tried to forget. But the United States government does not like to be outdone, and they certainly do not like to leave a mystery unsolved. While the world was distracted by the fall of the Berlin Wall, a black budget operation was sanctioned by the Department of Defense. Codename, Project Tartarus. Location, a classified geological anomaly deep within the Brooks Range of northern Alaska. The objective was simple: drill past the Mohorovičić discontinuity, breach the crust, and deploy a manned probe into the subsonic cavity detected by seismic scans. They weren't looking for oil. They weren't looking for minerals. They were looking for the source of a low-frequency broadcast that had been interfering with NORAD radar systems for 3 years. A broadcast coming from inside the planet. Tonight, we are declassifying the recovered audio logs of Team Delta. 10 men, elite geologists, engineers, and Special Forces operators. They entered the capsule on November 14th, 1990. They were supposed to go down for 24 hours. They never came back up. But their audio feed, it kept transmitting. It kept recording long after their life support should have failed. Long after their minds should have snapped. What you are about to hear is not science fiction. It is the documentation of humanity's deepest mistake. I am Captain Nightwhisper. Secure your surroundings. Do not listen to this in the dark, because once you hear the sounds from 12 kilometers down, you will realize that the ground beneath you is not as thick as you think. Let us begin the descent. The cold up here doesn't just bite, it chews. I'm standing on the gantry of the main drilling platform, looking out over the tundra. It's noon, but the sun is just a pale, bruised smear on the horizon. In Alaska, in November, the light is just a rumor. The wind is howling through the steel lattice of the derrick, a constant, mournful shriek that sounds like the landscape itself is in pain. My name is Commander James Vance. I've led operations in Vietnam, Grenada, and Panama. I've seen combat in jungles so thick you couldn't see your own hand, and in cities burning to the ground. But I have never felt unease like this. Project Tartarus is an engineering marvel, I'll give them that. The facility is disguised as a radar station, buried halfway into the side of a mountain. But the heart of it is the borehole, a reinforced shaft 3 meters wide, plunging straight down into the gut of the earth. It's not just a drill hole anymore. They've spent the last 18 months widening it, reinforcing the walls with a titanium carbide alloy, turning it into a vertical tunnel capable of supporting the Icarus descent capsule. I met the team an hour ago in the briefing room, a mix of military stoicism and nervous scientific energy. Dr. Aris Thorne is our lead geologist. He's a thin man, chain-smoking unfiltered cigarettes, his fingers stained yellow. He keeps looking at the seismic charts with a mix of fascination and terror. He told me yesterday that the readings from the cavity below don't make geological sense. It's too hollow, he said. Rock shouldn't hold a shape like that under this much pressure. It's like a lung. Then there's Sergeant Miller and Corporal Hideo, my security detail. Good men, heavy weapons specialists. They're checking their gear for the 10th time. They're carrying standard issue M16s, but loaded with depleted uranium rounds. I asked General Irons why we needed armor-piercing rounds to shoot at rocks. He didn't answer. He just handed me the mission dossier and told me to read the section on biological contingencies. Biological contingencies, 12 kilometers underground. The thought is laughable, and yet here I am checking the seal on my hazmat suit. The Icarus capsule is hanging over the abyss like a bullet in a chamber. It's a claustrophobic cylinder, reinforced to withstand pressure that would crush a submarine like a soda can. There are 10 seats strapped along the walls facing inward. No windows, just monitors connected to external cameras and floodlights. Commander, we are green for insertion, the comms officer says over the headset. His voice is crackly, fighting the static of the magnetic interference that seems to radiate from the hole. I walk across the metal grating to the capsule. The sound of my boots echoes, but the sound from the hole, that's what stops me. If you stand right at the edge, past the safety rail, you can hear it. It's not the wind, it's a low, rhythmic thrumming, like a massive generator running miles away. Or a heartbeat. It vibrates in the soles of your feet. It makes your teeth ache. Dr. Thorne is already strapped in. He's staring at a small photo of his daughter. Miller is joking with Hideo, trying to break the tension, but his laughter sounds brittle. All right, ladies, I bark, stepping inside the capsule. The air inside smells of recycled oxygen and industrial grease. Strap in, systems check. The hatch hisses shut. The heavy clank of the locking bolts engaging seals our fate. We are cut off from the wind, the cold, and the pale sun. Now there is only the hum of the internal scrubbers and the green glow of the instrument panels. Control, this is Delta 1, I say into the mic. Hatch sealed. Pressure equalization complete. Ready to drop. Copy, Delta 1, Control replies. Initiating descent sequence. Good hunting, Commander. Good hunting. What a strange thing to say to a team of explorers. The winch engages. The capsule lurches. My stomach drops as gravity takes over. We begin to move. Slowly at first, then picking up speed. The cameras on the monitors show the walls of the shaft blurring past, gray concrete turning to jagged rock, turning to smooth drilled obsidian. We are leaving the surface world behind. The depth meter on the wall ticks over. 500 meters, 1,000 meters. The radio chatter from the surface is already getting fuzzy. The rock is swallowing the signal. I look at the faces of my men. They are calm, professional, but I can see it in their eyes, the primitive fear of being buried alive. We are descending into a grave that we dug for ourselves. And for a split second, as we pass the 2-kilometer mark, the lights in the capsule flicker. Just a momentary brownout, but in that second of darkness, I swear I heard something over the external audio pickups. It wasn't the grinding of the winch. It wasn't the shifting of rock. It sounded like a scratch. A long, deliberate scratch against the metal hull of the capsule from the outside. I look at Miller. He heard it too. His hand is hovering over the safety of his rifle. Just ice falling, I say, trying to sound convinced. Just loose debris. But ice doesn't scratch. Ice shatters. We are dropping fast now, into the throat of the world, and I have a feeling that whatever is down there knows we are coming. 4 kilometers down, the human mind isn't built to comprehend this kind of depth. We are creatures of the surface. We are used to the sky, to the horizon, to open space. Down here, space is a concept that doesn't exist. There is only the shaft, a perfectly round, laser-drilled throat of stone that is swallowing us inch by inch. The temperature is rising. The internal sensors are reading 45 degrees Celsius outside the hull. The cooling systems are humming louder, a desperate mechanical whine fighting against the geothermal oven we are descending into. Inside the capsule, condensation is starting to form on the metal walls. It drips down in slow, heavy beads, like the capsule is sweating. Dr. Thorne has unbuckled his restraints against protocol and is hovering over the sensor array. His face is illuminated by the harsh green light of the sonar display. Look at this, he mutters, pointing at a jagged line on the screen. Just look at the density readings. I unclip and float over to him. The gravity feels slightly heavier down here, or maybe it's just the psychological weight of the rock above us. Talk to me, Doctor. What am I looking at? The rock, Thorne whispers, his eyes wide. We just passed through a layer of basalt. But look at the composition. It's porous, not like volcanic rock. It's cellular. Cellular? I ask, frowning. It looks like bone structure, Commander, he says, tapping the glass. Microscopic calcified lattices. If I didn't know better, I'd say we weren't drilling through crust anymore. I'd say we were drilling through a fossilized rib cage the size of a continent. I look at the screen. The patterns do look disturbingly organic, like the marrow of a giant petrified bone. Keep it to yourself, Doc, I say quietly, glancing at the rest of the team. Sergeant Miller is cleaning his rifle for the 3rd time. Corporal Hideo is staring at the external camera feed, watching the walls of the shaft blur past in a dizzying streak of gray and black. Suddenly, the capsule jolts. It's a violent metal-on-metal slam that throws me against the bulkhead. The emergency lights flicker red. The descent winch groans, a terrifying sound that reverberates through the hull like a dying whale. "Status!" I bark, grabbing a handhold. "We hit a snag," the pilot, Lieutenant Graves, yells from the control seat. "Guide rails are scraping the shaft. It's getting tighter." "That's impossible," Thorne says. "This shaft was widened to 3 meters constant diameter. It can't get tighter." "Well, tell that to the hull sensors," Graves snaps. "External pressure is spiking. It's like the walls are pushing in." I pull myself up to the monitor, showing the external camera view. The floodlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the rock face just inches from our window. Thorne was right. It doesn't look like rock anymore. It looks slick, wet. There is a sheen to it, like obsidian, but softer, and it is pulsing. I blink, thinking it's a trick of the strobe lights. But I see it again, a subtle, rhythmic contraction of the shaft walls. "Stop the descent," I order. "Commander?" Graves looks at me, confused. "I said stop the damn descent. Hold position at 4.2 clicks." The winch brakes engage with a screech. The Icarus capsule hangs suspended in the dark, swinging slightly. The silence that follows is heavy. "Why are we stopping?" Miller asks, his voice tight. "Look at the wall," I say, pointing to the screen. We all watch. For 10 seconds, nothing happens, just static rock. Then we all see it. A tremor runs through the stone, a ripple. It travels up the shaft like a peristaltic wave in a throat. The rock expands, then contracts, scraping against the titanium skin of our capsule. Screech! The sound sets my teeth on edge. It's the sound of the earth trying to crush us. "It's geologically unstable," Thorne stammers, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Thermal expansion. The heat is making the rock swell." "That wasn't expansion, Doc," Hideo says, his hand gripping the armrest of his chair so hard his knuckles are white. "That moved, like a muscle." I grab the comms mic. "Control, this is Delta 1. We are encountering structural anomalies in the shaft. Walls are shifting, requesting permission to abort and ascend for structural assessment." I wait for the reply. I wait for the reassuring voice of the surface command. Static. "Control, this is Delta 1. Do you copy?" More static, but this time it's not white noise. Through the crackle, I hear a sound, a low, rhythmic thumping. Thump, thump, thump. It sounds exactly like the heartbeat I heard on the surface, but down here it's louder. It's coming from below us. "Commander," the comms officer says, his face pale. "I'm not getting control. The cable is intact, but the signal is dead. We are cut off, bro." I look at my men. 4 kilometers of rock above us, unknown kilometers below. No comms, and the walls are closing in. "Override the safety," I say, my voice steady, though my heart is hammering. We push through. If we try to go up, the winch might stall against the friction. Our only way out is through the cavity. Graves, resume descent, full speed. We drop again. The scraping sound screams against the hull, louder and louder, until suddenly, pop. We burst through the constriction. The ride smooths out. But as I look back at the camera feed, looking up at the section we just passed, I see the walls settle back into place. They didn't just expand, they healed. The hole closed up behind us. We aren't just descending anymore. We have been swallowed. 7 kilometers. We are now deeper than the deepest part of the ocean. If the Marianas Trench were a mountain, we would be standing at its peak, looking down into an abyss that has no name. The mood in the capsule has shifted from anxiety to a kind of numb, focused terror. No one is speaking unless necessary. The air scrubbers are working overtime, but the air feels thick, heavy. It tastes metallic like copper and ozone. We passed the bone layer, as Thorne calls it, 2 kilometers ago. Now the geology has changed again. The walls of the shaft are no longer smooth. They are jagged, riddled with small holes and fissures. Porosity is increasing, Thorne mumbles into his personal recorder. We are seeing pockets of methane, sulfur, and something else. Unknown organic compounds. I'm watching the external cameras. The floodlights create a tunnel of light in an infinite universe of black. "Hold on," I say. "Camera 2, pan left." Graves adjusts the joystick. Camera 2 swivels. "There," I point. "Rewind 5 seconds. Freeze frame." On the monitor, a blurry image freezes. It's a fissure in the shaft wall, maybe a meter wide, just a crack in the rock. But inside the crack, "Is that equipment?" Miller asks, squinting. It is, jammed deep into the fissure, encrusted with rock and minerals. is a metal object. It looks like a drill bit, a massive industrial drill bit, twisted and snapped like a twig. That's Soviet tech, Hideo says softly. That's a Uralmash 4E drill head from the Kola project. That's impossible, Thorne says. The Kola borehole is in Russia. We are in Alaska. That's thousands of miles away. I know what I'm looking at, Doc, Hideo insists. I studied their schematics. That is a Russian drill bit. I stare at the screen. Hideo is right. The Cyrillic lettering is barely visible under the rust. But Thorne is also right. Geographically, it makes no sense. Unless the tunnel systems down here are connected. Unless the cavity we are heading toward isn't just a pocket under Alaska. Unless it's a global network. A honeycomb of hollows that spans the entire crust. If that's a Soviet drill, I say slowly, how did it get here? And why is it bent at a 90-degree angle? Before anyone can answer, a sound echoes through the hull. Clang! It comes from outside. Something hit the capsule. Debris? Graves asks, checking the sensors. No impact damage? Clang, louder this time. It didn't sound like a rock falling. It sounded like metal striking metal. Deliberate, rhythmic. Clang, clang, clang. Someone is knocking, Miller whispers. He raises his rifle, aiming it at the solid steel door of the hatch. Commander, someone is knocking on the damn door. Don't be stupid, Sergeant, I snap. We are 7 clicks underground. The pressure out there is 700 atmospheres. Nothing can live out there, nothing can knock. But I hear it too. It's coming from the lower airlock assembly. Clang, scritch, scratch. The knocking turns into scratching. The sound of something sharp dragging across the titanium alloy. It sounds like a diamond cutter, or a claw. Turn on the lower floodlights, I order. Camera 4, look down. The monitor flickers to life. We are looking at the bottom of the capsule. The black void beneath us. There is nothing there. Just the empty shaft stretching down into darkness. See, I say, letting out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Nothing, just acoustic echoes. The cable vibrating against the shaft walls. Commander, Hideo says, his voice trembling. Look at the edge of the light, at the bottom of the screen. I look closer, at the very periphery of the floodlight's reach, where the light fades into shadow. Movement, not falling rocks, not water. Shadows, dozens of them, clinging to the walls of the shaft. They are roughly human-sized, but they are moving. Wrong. They are scuttling, climbing up the vertical walls toward us. They are fast, jerky, like stop-motion animation spiders. As the light touches them, they freeze. They flatten themselves against the rock, blending in perfectly. Camouflage. They are following us, Thorne whispers. No, they aren't following. He points to the top of the screen. They are hurting us. Suddenly, the scratching stops. The radio static clears for a split second, and a voice comes through. It's not control, it's not English, and it's not Russian. It sounds like a child trying to speak with a throat full of gravel. Deeper, the voice hisses. Come, deeper. Then the static returns. I look at Miller. He has safety off his weapon. His eyes are wide, locked on the door. Graves, I say, my voice low and dangerous. Increase speed, maximum descent. But the structural integrity? Maximum speed, I roar. We need to get to the cavity. We need open space, because whatever is in this shaft with us, it's getting closer. We drop like a stone. The G-force pushes us into our seats. But even over the roar of the wind and the whine of the winch, I can still hear it. The scratching. It's moving up the sides of the capsule. It's trying to find a way in. 10 kilometers. We have passed the theoretical limit of the crust. We are now intruders in a place where physics seems to operate on a delay. The scratching on the hull stopped 1,000 meters ago. I don't know if we outran them or if they just stopped to watch us fall, but the silence that replaced them is worse. It is the silence of a predator holding its breath before the strike. Approaching the breach point, Graves announces. His voice is flat, robotic. He's running on adrenaline fumes. Sonar indicates the shaft opens up in 3, 2, 1. Whoosh! The sensation is immediate. The claustrophobic pressure of the shaft walls vanishes. The sound of the winch cable scraping against rocks stops. The capsule is no longer descending through a tunnel. We are floating in open space. External floodlights to maximum, I order. Let's see where we are. Graves flips the toggles. The high-intensity halogen beams, capable of illuminating a football stadium, stab into the darkness. They don't hit a wall, they don't hit a floor, they hit nothing. The light stretches out for a mile and fades into the gloom. We are hanging suspended in a void so massive that our sensors can't find the boundaries. The altimeter spins wildly. The laser rangefinders are returning error codes. Infinity. Dear God, Thorn whispers. He is pressed against the viewport, his breath fogging the glass. It's not a pocket, it's an ocean of air. We descend slowly through the void. As my eyes adjust to the darkness beyond the lights, I start to see shapes in the distance. Massive, towering pillars rising from the depths, stretching up into the black ceiling, miles above. Are those stalactites? Miller asks, squinting at the monitor. Zoom in, I command. The camera focuses on the nearest pillar. It's thick, maybe the width of a skyscraper, but it's not made of stone. It's gray, fibrous, and twisting. It pulses with a slow, bioluminescent rhythm, faint blue veins throbbing under a translucent surface. That's not stone, Thorn says, his voice shaking with a mix of horror and scientific ecstasy. That's organic matter. Commander, that looks like muscle fiber. I stare at the screen. He's right. The pillar looks like a bundle of exposed nerves and muscle, petrified and magnified to a geological scale. And look there, Hideo points to another screen. The atmosphere. We are passing through clouds, but they aren't water vapor. They are thick, yellow spores drifting in the stagnant air. As the capsule moves through them, they stick to the glass, glowing faintly. Atmospheric analysis, I bark. High concentrations of sulfur, Graves reads from the console. Methane and hemoglobin? He pauses, tapping the gauge. That can't be right. The sensors are detecting aerosolized blood cells in the air. I feel a wave of nausea. We aren't just underground. We are inside something. Commander, Miller yells, snapping me back to reality. Movement, 3 o'clock. I spin around. On the starboard monitor, something is flying. It's not a bat. It's not a bird. It's large, maybe the size of a hang glider. It moves with a jerky, fluttering motion. It dives through the light beam, shrieking, scree. The sound penetrates the hull. It sounds like tearing metal. Did you see it? Miller is hyperventilating. It had a face. Sarge, I swear to God, it had a human face. Calm down, Miller. I grab his shoulder. It was a shadow, a trick of the light. It looked like Kowalski, Miller whispers, staring at me with wide, crazy eyes. From my old unit. He died in Panama, but I just saw him flying out there. Oxygen toxicity, Thorn mutters, checking the life support. We are too deep. Nitrogen narcosis, hallucinations. It wasn't a hallucination, Miller screams, shoving my hand away. He raises his rifle toward the viewport. Stand down, Sergeant. I draw my sidearm. The tension in the capsule snaps tight. We are 10 kilometers down, suspended by a wire, surrounded by flying nightmares, and my heavy weapons specialist is losing his mind. Look, Hideo says calmly, too calmly. We are approaching the floor. I look down. The abyss is ending. The floodlights reveal a landscape that defies logic. It looks like a ruined city, but melted. Structures that might have been buildings or might have been giant rib cages are scattered across a floor covered in thick black moss. And in the center of the ruins is the source of the signal, a massive, perfectly circular hole in the ground of the cavity, a hole within the hole, and it is glowing with a sick purple light. That's it, Thorn says. Project Tartarus, the secondary layer. Set us down, I order, keeping one eye on Miller. Put us down on that ridge and pray the ground is solid. Log entry, 05. Depth, 12,000 meters. Status, touchdown. The landing was not smooth. The Icarus capsule didn't land on rock. It landed on something soft. When the landing struts made contact, there was no metallic clank. There was a wet, squelching thud. The capsule sank a few feet into the surface before stabilizing. It felt like landing in mud or flesh. Engine shutdown, Graves announces. Winch disengaged. We are on the ground, though. Silence returns, but it's different now. The thrumming sound, the heartbeat, is so loud it vibrates my chest cavity. Thump, thump, thump. It's slow, maybe 4 beats per minute, but each beat shakes the entire capsule like a mild earthquake. Environmental suit check, I order. We need to go out there. Out there, Miller laughs, a high, hysterical giggle. You want to go out there? Did you see the things in the air? They had faces, Commander. They had faces. Get a grip, soldier. I slam him against the wall. We have a mission. We deploy the sensor probe. We take samples, and we leave. You are a United States Marine. Act like one. Miller nods slowly, swallowing hard. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Thorne is already in his hazmat suit, clutching his sample kit like a lifeline. The air is toxic, he says, but the pressure is surprisingly stable. It's equalized. We won't implode if we open the hatch. I suit up. The heavy rubber of the suit feels like a coffin. I grab my M16, checking the magazine. Depleted uranium. I hope it's enough. Graves, Hideo, you stay in the capsule. Keep the engines warm. If I give the signal, you winch us up. Do not wait for us. Understood, Commander, Hideo says, chambering around in his shotgun. I'll watch the door. I cycle the airlock. The outer door hisses open. The smell hits me even through the filters of my mask. It's the smell of a slaughterhouse that has been closed for 1,000 years. Rotting copper, sulfur, and old stale blood. I step out onto the surface. My boots sink into the black moss. It feels spongy. I shine my tactical light at the ground. Don't look too closely at the moss, Thorne warns over the comms. I look anyway. The moss isn't plant life. It's hair. Billions of tiny black strands of coarse hair growing out of the ground, and crawling through the hair are things that look like white ticks the size of dinner plates. I kick one away. It bursts with a sickening pop, spraying yellow fluid. Eyes up, I command. Head for the ridge. We walk toward the glowing purple pit in the distance. The landscape is a nightmare of biology and geology fused together. We pass a boulder that looks like a calcified skull. We pass pools of steaming black liquid that bubble and hiss. Commander, Thorne stops. He is aiming his scanner at a structure nearby. It looks like a pillar of black obsidian. What is it? This isn't natural, Thorne says, his voice trembling. Look at the markings. I shine my light on the pillar. Carved into the black stone or bone are symbols. They aren't random scratches. They are geometric, precise. Runes, I ask? No, Thorne says. Equations. This is math, but it's wrong. The geometry is non-Euclidean. Just looking at it makes my eyes hurt. Someone was here before us, Miller whispers. He is scanning the darkness with his rifle light. Russians? No human carved this, Thorne says. Carbon dating on this structure. The scanner is reading it as 2 million years old. Suddenly a sound cuts through the darkness. It's not the heartbeat. It's a voice. It's coming from the purple pit. Help me. It's faint, distorted, echoing, but it's English. Miller freezes. Did you hear that? It's a radio echo, I say. Atmospheric bounce. James, my blood runs cold. That's my name. James, it's cold down here. I know that voice. I left that voice in a burning chopper in Saigon 20 years ago. It's my co-pilot. It's a trick, I growl, raising my weapon. It's the gas. It's the toxicity. No, Miller says, stepping forward, lowering his rifle. That's not a trick. That's my brother. I hear him. He's calling me. Miller, hold position, I shout, but he's not listening. He starts walking toward the purple pit, walking faster, then running. Miller, he sprints toward the edge of the glowing abyss. I'm coming, Danny. I'm coming. Hideo, Graves, I yell into the comms. Cover fire. Target whatever's making that sound. But from the capsule, I hear only screaming. They're inside, Hideo is yelling. They came through the vents. They're inside the suits. Oh God, they're eating. Static. Then the floodlights on the capsule go out. We are 12 kilometers down. My ship is compromised. My soldier is running into a pit of madness. And I am standing in a field of hair, aiming a gun at the darkness. And from the dark, something starts to laugh. I made a choice. It's the kind of choice they don't teach you in officer candidate school. Miller was running into the dark, chasing ghosts. But my ship, my only ticket out of this hellhole, was under attack. The screaming over the comms had stopped, replaced by a wet, slurping static that made my stomach turn. Thorne, with me, I yelled, spinning around and sprinting back toward the Icarus capsule. Leave Miller. We need to secure the ship. Thorne hesitated, looking at the darkness where Miller had vanished, then at me. Survival instinct won. He turned and ran alongside me, his hazmat suit clumsy and heavy on the spongy ground. We reached the capsule in 2 minutes. It looked like a beached whale carcass. The main floodlights were dead. The only illumination came from the emergency strobes inside, casting frantic, pulsing red flashes through the viewport. And then I saw them. The ticks. The white parasites. They weren't just on the ground anymore. They were swarming the hull of the capsule, thousands of them. They looked like a moving carpet of pale, writhing limbs. They were clustering around the air vents, around the door seals, chewing. I could hear it over the roar of my own breathing. Crunch, crunch, crunch. They were eating the titanium alloy. "Get back!" I shouted to Thorn. I raised my M16 and flipped the selector to full auto. "Clear the door!" I squeezed the trigger. The depleted uranium rounds tore through the mass of parasites, exploding them into showers of yellow ichor. They didn't scream, they just popped. But for every 10 I killed, 20 more crawled up from the black moss to take their place. I fought my way to the airlock. "Hideo, Graves, open the damn door!" No answer. I punched the manual override code into the keypad. The hydraulic seals hissed, a weak, dying sound, and the door slid open. I wish it hadn't. The interior of the Icarus was painted red, not from the lights, from blood. The cabin pressure had equalized with the outside, meaning the hull had been breached long before I opened the door. The air inside was thick with the smell of sulfur and copper. Lieutenant Graves was still in the pilot's seat, or at least his torso was. He was slumped forward over the console. His helmet was shattered, and inside his suit, the suit was moving. It was rippling. I stepped closer, my weapon raised. "Graves?" He turned his head slowly, but he didn't have a face anymore. His visor was gone, and latched onto his face was one of the white ticks. It had dug in deep. Its legs were wrapped around the back of his head, and its proboscis was buried in his eye socket. And the worst part? Graves was still conscious. His remaining eye locked onto mine. His mouth opened, trying to form words, but only a gurgle of blood came out. He raised a shaking hand and pointed, not at me, Behin, but at the ceiling. I looked up. The ceiling of the capsule was gone. The parasites had eaten through the roof mechanism, and the winch cable, the steel tether that connected us to the surface, to sunlight, to home, was gone. It hadn't snapped under tension. It had been severed, gnawed through. "Commander," Thorn whispered from the doorway. He was staring at the floor. Corporal Hideo wasn't there. His shotgun was on the deck, twisted like a pretzel. But there was a drag mark, a wide smear of blood leading from the pilot's seat, out the back of the capsule, through a hole chewed in the rear bulkhead. They hadn't just killed Hideo, they had taken him. "We can't stay here," I said, my voice sounding hollow in my own ears. "This isn't a ship anymore, it's a dinner plate." "The winch is gone," Thorn stammered, panic rising in his voice. "We're trapped. We're buried alive." "Grab the supplies," I ordered, grabbing a satchel and stuffing it with extra magazines, flares, and a medical kit. "Grab the oxygen scrubbers if you can carry them. We are leaving." "Leaving to go where?" Thorn screamed. "There is nowhere to go." I grabbed him by the faceplate of his suit and slammed him against the wall. "Listen to me, the ship is dead. If we stay here, those things will eat through our suits in 10 minutes. We have one option. We find Miller, we find where he went, and we find a defensible position." "Miller went to the pit," Thorn whimpered, "to the purple light." "Then that's where we're going," I said, shoving him toward the door. "Move." I took one last look at Graves. He was twitching now. The parasite was pulsing, pumping something into his brain. I raised my pistol. "I'm sorry, son," I whispered. Bang! I didn't wait to see him slump. I turned and ran back into the dark, leaving the tomb of the Icarus behind. We were on foot now, 12 kilometers down, 2 men against a planet that wanted to digest us. We have been walking for an hour, or maybe a day. Time doesn't work down here. My watch stopped ticking 20 minutes ago. The second hand is just vibrating in place, caught in some magnetic anomaly. We are following Miller's boot prints in the black moss. They are easy to track. He wasn't walking, he was running, stumbling. There are places where he fell, dragging his hands through the hair-like grass, leaving deep gouges. The landscape is changing as we get closer to the purple glow. The ruins are getting denser. Thorn calls it the City of Bone. Towering spires of calcified white rock rise up around us, twisting into shapes that look like vertebrae. We are walking through a canyon made of giant fossilized ribs. The ground is harder here. The moss gives way to a surface that looks like skin. Leathery, pale, and warm to the touch through my boots. And the sound, the heartbeat, has changed. It's no longer just a thump. It's a melody, a low, droning hum that seems to come from everywhere at once. It vibrates in my teeth. It resonates in the fluid of my inner ear. It makes me feel dizzy, euphoric, and terrified all at the same time. Do you hear the singing? Thorn asks. He has stopped checking his scanner. He is just walking, staring straight ahead with a glazed look in his eyes. It's not singing, Thorn, I snap, checking our 6. It's acoustic resonance. Wind moving through the caves. No, Thorn smiles, a disturbingly peaceful smile. It's a lullaby. It's the earth singing to her children. Snap out of it. I shove him forward. Keep moving. We crest a ridge of bone and look down. There it is, the purple pit, the secondary layer. It's not just a hole, it is a coliseum, a massive circular depression, easily 5 miles wide. The walls slope down steeply, leading to a central aperture that glows with that sick, violet radiation. And standing at the very edge of the aperture is a tiny figure. Miller, I shout. My voice echoes across the vast chamber. But the echo is wrong. Instead of Miller, the echo comes back as join us. I raise my binoculars. Miller is standing with his arms spread wide, like a preacher addressing a congregation. He has taken off his helmet. He breached containment, Thorn gasps. The air! Why isn't he dead? Miller turns around slowly. Even from 300 yards away, I can see something is wrong. He isn't choking. He isn't gasping for air. He is smiling. But his eyes. Through the binoculars, I see that his eyes are gone. In their place are 2 small, glowing purple lights. And his skin, it's moving. Veins are pulsing black under the surface of his face, shifting and rearranging themselves. Miller, get away from the edge, I scream, starting to run down the slope. Miller looks at me, and then he speaks. He doesn't shout, but his voice booms across the distance as if he is plugged into a stadium PA system. Commander, Miller's voice says, but underneath it, there are 1,000 other voices whispering. It's beautiful down here. We were wrong. It's not hell. It's a womb. Miller, listen to me. I skid to a halt 50 yards from him. We need to leave. We can find another way. Leave? Miller laughs. The sound is like rocks grinding together. Why would I leave? I can hear them all now. The ones who came before, the Russians, the miners, they are all here. In the walls. He points to the pit. Do you want to hear the truth, Commander? Do you want to know what the broadcast is? He leans back. He is teetering on the edge of the abyss. Don't do it! I raise my rifle, aiming at his leg. Step back or I shoot. The broadcast, Miller says, tears of black oil streaming down his face, is a dinner bell. He steps back. He doesn't scream as he falls. He just vanishes into the purple light. I run to the edge. I look down. The pit isn't empty. The light illuminates something massive moving deep below. A shifting, writhing mass of biomass, eyes, mouths, limbs, billions of tons of flesh, churning like a slow ocean. And as Miller falls toward it, the mass rises to meet him. My God, Thorn whispers, standing beside me. He has taken off his helmet too. It's not a cavity, it's a stomach. I grab Thorn before he can jump. Don't you dare, put your helmet back on. But don't you hear it, James? Thorn looks at me, tears streaming down his face. It's hungry. It's been hungry for so long. I look at the pit. The city of bone around us isn't ruins. It's the skeletal remains of something that the planet consumed millions of years ago. And where are the fresh meal? The humming gets louder. It turns into a shriek. The pit is waking up. And then I see them coming up the walls of the pit. Not the ticks, not the flyers. Humanoid shapes, pale, eyeless, wearing tattered rags of Soviet uniforms. The Russians didn't leave. They are still here and they are climbing up to greet us. We are running again. The creatures climbing out of the purple pit aren't fast, but there are hundreds of them. They move with a unified, jerky rhythm, like puppets controlled by a single twitching hand. Don't look at them, I shout at Thorn, grabbing his harness and dragging him over a ridge of calcified bone. Keep your eyes on the ground, move. But I looked. I looked long enough to see the patches on their rotting uniforms. CCCP, the hammer and sickle. These aren't monsters native to this depth. These are men, or they used to be. They are the lost crew of the Kola Superdeep Borehole. History says they packed up and went home in 1989. History is a lie. They didn't stop drilling. They broke through, and they came down here to see what they had found, and the pit kept them. Crack thump, a shot rings out from behind us. But it's not gunfire, it's a harpoon. A jagged spear made of black bone slams into the ground inches from my boot. I spin around, raising my rifle. 3 of the entities have crested the ridge. They are wearing tattered Soviet pressure suits, fused to their skin. Their helmets are shattered, revealing faces that are translucent and pale. I can see the veins pulsing black underneath. I can see the parasites crawling inside their cheeks. One of them, the leader, raises a modified industrial rivet gun. "Open fire!" I scream. I squeeze the trigger. The M16 bucks in my hands. The depleted uranium rounds hit the leader in the chest. They punch through the rotten suit and the flesh beneath. He doesn't fall. He doesn't even flinch. The rounds pass straight through him, blowing out chunks of black ichor, but he keeps walking. It's like shooting into a block of ballistics gel. There are no organs left to damage, no heart to stop. They are just husks. "Join the hole," the leader gurgles. The voice isn't coming from his mouth. It's vibrating from his chest cavity. He raises the rivet gun again. I aim for the head. Bam! The round takes the top of his skull off. Finally, the puppet strings are cut. He drops to his knees and collapses into a pile of wet rags and bone. "Headshots!" I yell. "Thorn, run! I'll hold them off." "I can't!" Thorn is hyperventilating. He's fallen to his knees, staring at a structure in the distance. "Commander, look! Over there!" I glance to my left. Nestled against the wall of the giant cavern, half buried in the black moss, is a building. It's a modular habitat, metallic, boxy, rusty. It looks like a lunar land, but built with brutalist Soviet architecture. "A forward operating base," I whisper. They established a base. "Shelter!" Thorn scrambles up and starts sprinting toward the structure. I fire 3 more bursts, dropping 2 more of the approaching Russians, and then I sprint after Thorn. We reach the airlock of the habitat. It's covered in the white ticks, but the door looks intact. I spin the manual wheel. It's rusted shut. "Help me," I grunt. Thorn grabs the wheel. Together, we heave. Screech! The metal groans and the door pops open. We tumble inside, slamming it shut behind us and spinning the locking wheel just as a heavy body slams against the glass of the viewport. We are inside. The habitat is dark, lit only by the flickering emergency power of a dying nuclear battery. The air inside is stale, but breathable. I turn on my tactical light. The room is filled with scientific equipment, seismographs, biological sample jars, and in the corner, a radio array, a massive military-grade transmitter. "Thorn, check the radio," I order, checking the ammo count. "See if it still has power. We need to boost the signal. We need to warn the surface." But Thorn isn't looking at the radio. He is looking at the desk in the center of the room. There is a man sitting there. He is wearing a captain's uniform. He has been dead for a long time. His skin is mummified, stretched tight over his skull. He has a pistol in one hand and a tape recorder in the other. But the most disturbing thing is what is on the desk in front of him. It's a map of the Earth's core. But it's not a geological map. It's an anatomical chart. "Commander," Thorn whispers, picking up the map. His hands are shaking so hard the paper rattles. "This isn't a cave system. Look at the labels." I shine my light on the Cyrillic text. I can't read Russian, but I recognize the diagrams. The shaft we came down, it's labeled esophagus. The purple pit, stomach. The tunnels branching out, veins. "The planet," Thorn says, his voice cracking. "It's not a rock, James. It's an organism. A biological entity the size of a world. And we are just bacteria." Outside, the banging on the door gets louder. They are bringing tools. They are going to cut their way in. The habitat is shaking. The hollow men outside are using a plasma cutter on the hinges. Sparks are flying across the room, illuminating the mummified corpse of the Soviet captain. "The radio is dead," Thorn says, dropping the receiver. "The antenna was chewed off years ago." "Then we find another way," I say, scanning the room. My eyes land on a schematic pinned to the wall behind the dead captain. It shows the habitat layout, but it shows something else attached to the rear of the structure. A vertical tube, a secondary shaft. "What is that?" I point. Thorn squints at the blueprint. "It looks like an escape mechanism, a pressurized ascender, a lifeboat designed to shoot back up to the surface using solid fuel rockets." "Does it work?" "It's Russian tech from the 80s, Thorn laughs hysterically. "It probably never worked. It's our only chance," and I say, "Check the rear airlock." Clang! The main door buckles. A hand, a pale, wet hand, reaches through the gap. Go! I shove Thorn toward the back of the room. We scramble through a narrow corridor filled with hanging wires and debris. At the end, there is a heavy circular hatch labeled Vostok 1. I spin the wheel. It opens smoothly. Inside, there is a small, vertical capsule. Cramped. Just enough room for two men standing shoulder to shoulder. It sits on a launch rail that disappears up into a drilled shaft in the cavern ceiling. Get in, I tell Thorn. He climbs in. I start to follow, but then I stop. I look back at the corridor. The main door has failed. I can hear them pouring into the habitat. The shrieking, the wet footsteps. If we both get in, the extra weight might be too much for the old rockets, and someone needs to manually engage the launch sequence from the external console. The remote trigger is smashed. I look at Thorn. He is staring at me, terrified. He knows. James, he whispers, don't. Someone has to push the button, Eris, I say, using his first name for the first time. And you're the civilian. You have the data. You have the map. You need to tell them what this is. I can't go back alone, he cries. They won't believe me. Make them believe you. I hand him the tape recorder from the dead captain's desk. Well, take this. I grab the handle of the hatch and slam it shut. I lock it from the outside. Commander, open the door. Thorn is pounding on the glass. I turn to the control panel on the wall. It's covered in dust. I wipe it off. A big red button under a plastic guard. Launch. The sounds of the hollow men are right behind me now. I can smell them. The rot. The sulfur. I pull my sidearm. I have 3 bullets left. Good luck, Doc, I whisper. I smash the plastic guard and punch the launch button. Whoosh! The rockets ignite with a deafening roar. The floor shakes. The capsule shoots up the shaft like a bullet, leaving a trail of fire and smoke. I watch it go. Then I turn around. They are here. 10 of them, standing in the doorway of the corridor. The leader, the one I shot, is back on his feet, his head half gone. Beside him is Miller. Miller looks peaceful. His purple eyes are glowing. Commander, Miller says, why did you send him away? We just wanted to show you the heart. I raise my pistol. I've seen enough, I say. I fire 2 shots. One hits Miller, one hits the leader. They don't stop. They just step closer. I put under my own chin. Click. Empty. Miller smiles. He reaches out a hand. His fingers are long, too long. They touch my face. His skin burns like acid. Don't be afraid, Miller whispers. The digestion is the beginning of rebirth. Audio log begins with a long period of static. Then a wet, breathing sound. I don't know if this is recording. The suit is part of me now. My name was James Vance. I was a commander. I am still here. I didn't die. I wish I had died. They didn't eat me, not in the way you think. They integrated me. I am sitting in the habitat, but the walls are breathing. The metal has turned to skin. The radio? I fixed the radio. I used my own nerves to bridge the circuits. Can you hear me? Nordim, if you are listening, stop looking for us. Thorn, if you made it to the surface, burn the data. Burn the maps. Do not let them drill again. We thought we were exploring a cave. We were popping a pimple on the face of the god, and now it knows you are there. Before we drilled, it was asleep. The heartbeat was slow, but we woke it up. We poked it with a needle, and now it's agitated. The stomach is churning. The acid is rising. Miller is here with me. He says hello. He says the surface is too cold. He says you should all come down here. It's warm. It's so warm. I can feel the pulse of the planet in my blood. It's rewriting my DNA. It's telling me things. History, not human history, deep history. It was here before the dinosaurs, before the oceans. It waited. It slept. And now, it's hungry. It's not going to stay down here anymore. I can feel the tremors starting. Can you feel them up there? The earthquakes? That's not tectonic plates shifting. That's the beast stretching. It's coming up the shaft. It's using the hole we made. I am going to sign off now. My fingers are fusing together. I can't hold the button much longer. Do not send a rescue team. Do not send a nuke. Just run. Run to the mountains. Run to the moon. It doesn't matter. The ground is not safe. This is Delta One. Signing off. The audio ends with a sound that is not human. It is a scream, but it sounds like tectonic plates grinding together. then silence. The audio log you just heard was recovered from an encrypted buoy that surfaced in the Arctic Ocean in 1991. Dr. Eris Thorne was never found. The escape capsule was never recovered. The U.S. Navy listed the entire Delta team as lost at sea during a classified training exercise. Project Tartarus was officially shut down. The site in Alaska was leveled. They poured 10,000 tons of concrete into the borehole. They capped it with a lead seal 3 meters thick. But concrete cracks. In 2020, seismologists in Alaska detected a new swarm of earthquakes, deep quakes that are 12 kilometers down. They say it's just the Brooks Range settling. They say it's natural geological activity. But if you look at the waveforms, if you slow them down, they don't look like random friction. They look like a heartbeat, and it's getting faster. The next time you are standing outside and you feel the ground tremble beneath your feet, ask yourself, is it an earthquake? Or is something moving in the basement? We dug too deep. We rang the dinner bell. And now we are just waiting for the landlord to come collect the rent. I am Captain Nightwhisper. Walk lightly. And for God's sake, stop digging. Good night.